We're going to have Dustin talk about why you should start a startup. Thank you for coming, Dustin.
Sure. But yeah, so Sam asked me to talk about why you should start a startup. There's a bunch of reasons you might have, and there's a bunch of common reasons that people have that I hear all the time for why you might start a startup. It's important to know like what reason is yours, because some of them only make sense in certain contexts. Some of them will actually like lead you astray. You may have been misled by the way that Hollywood or the press likes to romanticize entrepreneurship. So I want to try and like illuminate some of those potential fallacies so you guys can make the decision in a clear way. And then I'll talk about the reason I like best for actually starting a startup. It's very related to a lot of what Sam just talked about. But surprisingly, I don't think it's the most common reason. Usually people have one of these other reasons, or they just want to start a company for the sake of starting a company. So the four common reasons, just to enumerate them, are it's glamorous, you'll get to be the boss, you'll have flexibility, especially over your schedule, and you'll have the chance to have bigger impact and make more money than you might by joining a later stage company. So, okay, you guys are probably pretty familiar with this concept. When I wrote the Medium post, which a lot of you guys read a year ago, I felt like the story in the press was a little more unbalanced. Entrepreneurship just got romanticized quite a bit. The movie The Social Network came out, had a lot of sort of like bad aspects of what it's like to be an entrepreneur, but mainly sort of painted this picture of like there's a lot of partying and you kind of move from like one brilliant insight to another brilliant insight, and really made it seem like this like really cool thing to do. And I think the reality is just not quite so glamorous. There's an ugly side to being an entrepreneur, and also just more importantly, what you're actually spending your time on is just a lot of hard work. Sam mentioned this, but you're basically just sitting at your desk, heads down, focused, answering customer support emails, doing sales, figuring out hard engineering problems. So it's really important that you kind of like go in with eyes wide open. And then also it's really quite stressful. This has been a popular topic in the press lately. The Economist actually ran a story just last week called like Entrepreneurs Anonymous, and shows like a founder kind of like hiding under his desk and talking about like founder depression. This is like a very real thing. Like, let's be real. If you start a company, it's going to be extremely hard. Why is it so stressful? So a couple reasons. One is you've got a lot of responsibility. So people in any kind of career have fear of failure. It's kind of just like a dominant part of the psychology. But when you're an entrepreneur, you have fear of failure on behalf of yourself and all of the people who decided to follow you. So that's really stressful. In some cases, these people are depending on you for their livelihood. Even when that's not true, they have decided to devote the best of your years of their life to following you. And so you're responsible for the opportunity cost of their time. So that's a big deal. And you're always on call if something comes up. Maybe not always at 3 in the morning, but for some startups that's true. But if something important comes up, you're going to deal with it. That's kind of the end of the story. Doesn't matter if you're on vacation, doesn't matter if it's the weekend. You kind of always got to be on the ball and always be in a place mentally where you're prepared to deal with those things. And then a sort of special example of that or of this kind of stress is fundraising. So scene from The Social Network. This is us partying and working at the same time, and somebody's spraying champagne everywhere. So The Social Network spends a lot of time kind of painting these scenes. Mark's not in the scene. The other thing they spend all their time on is kind of like painting him out to be a huge jerk. This computer?
Yeah. Oh.
Okay, so this is an actual scene from. See, I'm going to move this just a little. Oh no.
This will work.
This will work. Okay. On the PDF as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, cool. So this is an actual scene from Palo Alto. Spent a lot of time at this desk, just kind of heads down and focus. Mark was still kind of a jerk sometimes, but in this more like fun, lovable way, and not a like sociopathic scorn lover way. So this is him like signaling his intention to just be focused and keep working, not be social. So then there's also the scene sort of demonstrating the like brilliant insight moment. It's kind of like Straight Out of a Beautiful Mind. They literally stole that scene. So they like to paint it as you just kind of like jump from one of these moments to the other moment with like parting in between. But really we were just at that table the whole time. So interestingly, if you compare this to the other photo, Mark is in the exact same position, but he's wearing different clothes. This is definitely a different day. So cool. So that's what it's actually like in person. And I just covered this bullet up here. This is the economist article I was talking about a second ago. So another form of stress is just like unwanted media attention. So part of it being glamorous, you get some positive media attention sometimes. It's nice to be on like the cover of Time and like be the person of the year. It's maybe a little less nice to be on the cover of People with like one of your wedding photos. It depends who you are. Some people would like that. I'd really hate it. But when Valleywag like analyzes your lecture and just tears you apart, like you definitely don't want that. Nobody wants that. And then one thing I almost never hear people talk about is you're just a lot more committed. So if you're an employee of a startup and things are stressful, it's not going well, you're unhappy, you can just leave. For a founder, you can leave, but it's very uncool, pretty much a black eye on the rest of your career. And so you really are committed, for 10 years if it's going well, probably more like 5 years if it's not going well. So 3 years to figure out that it's not going well, and then if you find like a nice landing for your company, another 2 years at the acquiring company. And if you leave before that, again, it's not only going to harm yourself financially, it's going to harm all your employees, so you pretty much don't. So if you're lucky and you have a bad startup idea, you fail quickly, but most of the time it's not like that. All right, moving right along. And I should say, I've had a lot of this stress in my own life, especially in the early years of Facebook. I just got really unhealthy. I wasn't exercising, had a lot of anxiety, actually like throughout my back, like almost every 6 months, like when I was like 21, 22, which is like pretty crazy. And so if you do start a company, be aware that you're going to have to deal with this and you have to actually manage it. It's actually like one of your core responsibilities. Ben Horowitz likes to say like the #1 role of a CEO is managing your own psychology. It's absolutely true. Make sure you do it. So another reason, so people, especially if they've already had a job at another company, you tend to develop this narrative of like, okay, like the people running this company are idiots. They're making all these stupid decisions. They're spending their time in these stupid ways. I'm going to start a company and I'm going to do it better. I'm going to like set all the rules. It's a pretty attractive idea. Makes a lot of sense. If you've read my Medium post, you know it's coming. I'll give you guys a second to read this quote. Cool. So this really resonates with me. And one thing I'd point out is, the reality of these decisions is pretty nuanced. The people you thought were idiots probably weren't idiots. They probably just had like a really difficult decision in front of them, and people pulling them in multiple directions. So the most common thing I have to spend my time on and focus my energy on as a CEO is like the problems that like other people are bringing to me, the other priorities that people create. And it's usually in the form of a conflict. People want to go in different directions, or like customers want different things. And like I might have my own opinion about that. But really the game I'm playing is like, who do I disappoint the least? And like just trying to like navigate all these difficult situations. And even on a day-to-day basis, I might come in on Monday and like have all these grand plans for like how I'm going to improve the company and what I'm going to spend my time on. But then if like an important employee is threatening to quit, that's what I'm spending my time on. That's my #1 priority. So a subset of you're the boss is you have flexibility. You have control over your own schedule. This is a really attractive idea. So here's the reality, another Phil Liven quote. So this really resonates with me as well. And some of the reasons for this, again, you're always on call. So maybe you don't intend to work all parts of the day, but you might not get to control which ones. You're a role model. This is super important. So if you're an employee of a company, you might have some good weeks, you might have some bad weeks, some weeks when you're low energy, maybe you want to take a couple extra days off. That's really bad if you're an entrepreneur. Like your team will really signal off what you're bringing to the table. And so if you take your foot off the gas, so will they. You're always working anyway. So if you're really passionate about an idea, it's just going to like pull you to keep working on it. If you're working with great investors, you're working with great partners, they're going to want to be working really hard. They're going to want you to be working really hard. And again, you're going to want to work really hard. So some companies like to tell the story about you can have your cake and eat it too. You can have like 4-day work weeks maybe. If you're Tim Ferriss, maybe you can have a 12-hour work week. It's a really attractive idea, and it does work in a particular instance, which is if you want to like actually have a small business or go after a niche market, then you're a small business entrepreneur. That makes total sense. But as soon as you get past like 2 or 3 people, you really need to step it up and be full-time committed.